Hello and welcome to the show. We are back on BeamNG Drive, going to be driving some of your automation cars around our autocross course. We start with a car from Dex 916. This is the FailRace DX. All-wheel drive, naturally aspirated V8. In this one, 334 horsepower, over 200 torque. It is, I mean, power-wise, this is kind of what we've been seeing from a lot of the naturally aspirated cars. We've been seeing the mid to maybe some able to get up towards the high 300 horsepowers. But of course, they got pretty decent throttle response. Fairly light, 970 kilos. So it's kind of in the ballpark figures. It is in the ballpark figures. It isn't the most aerodynamic of vehicles that we've ever seen, but that's unlikely to be too much of a problem around here. At the end of the day, top speed, not so important. What is important is, well, turning, which I can tell you is surprisingly good. In front of this car, I mean, just looking at it, you don't expect the front to get to, you don't expect it to handle amazingly, just because it's got an older body style. You don't expect it to quite get turned. It is getting turned very, very nicely. Gear ratio wise, second gear is working out of the tighter bits, which is what you want to be doing, really. We're a little bit wide. We can get away with it, though. You can also get away with being a little bit more wider there on the exit if we don't get too much understeer through that next corner. We are into the twiddly bits up towards, well, the only real straight. It's interesting to see if anyone's going to be able to crack the 100-mile-an-hour mark down here in terms of straight line speed. This is going to do about 85. It's up there with some of the faster cars. It's not quite the quickest, but that's pretty solid. Anything 80 plus is not doing too bad down there. Up towards the final hairpin we go, and now it's just the wiggle towards the line. What are we going to see for a opening gambit? 21.2. That's a pretty good time for a first run. For a first run, 21.2 is not too shabby. Of course, I'll get 3 runs with each of the cars to try and go as quick as possible. Whether this is going to be able to beat the Turnbull, I'm not sure, or get up near the Kestrel. Is always going to be an interesting challenge, essentially. Of course it is. It's the whole point, to go as fast as possible. It does feel pretty good. There's no real massive criticisms, if you like, of the car. The power is pretty much always on tap. It doesn't move around too much. There's just a faintest little bit of oversteer from the car as you really boot it out of these corners. Oh, I actually got a little bit early on the brakes there, although that does mean I can be nice and neat and get ourselves positioned better for here. We're running it very, very close to the concrete around all of there, as you do. Be a little wide on the exit. We'll get away with that, though. Oh. Because it's got very, very good turning, I am finding myself taking quite a lot of risks on towards these concrete barriers. It's, at the end of the day, a lot of what you've got to have your car do is be able to get turned in amazingly well at about 20-25 miles an hour. It does have ABS, and it still feels a little skittish under braking there. Like, I'm kind of slightly nervous of diving full on the brakes down there, because it still feels like it's... Yeah, it has ABS, but it doesn't seem to be enough to stop the car from locking up. So that's a little bit of a concern. It's a better run to 20.6. It goes within 0.2 of the Kestrel. Oh, it's quick. It's quick. I don't mean to be rude. It looks a little bit like a Lada with a bit of a body kit stuck on it. I think that's kind of half the fun with it. And it is damn fast. The braking is strange, though. I mean, we've had cars with, little issues with locking up. We've had cars with some strangely behaving brakes. This one, though, has essentially got dodgy ABS. It's kind of what it feels like. It's got a very dodgy ABS system, and I can't trust it to. So I can't go, full 100% brake, because I don't trust it to stop us, essentially, without a big lockup. Wonder why. There's a lot of things like I wonder what it is in the game, or what it is in the car design that is causing it to do that. Oh, I've pushed it too much through there. I have pushed it too much through there. We've lost a front wheel. Damn it, trying to find time. It was, I guess, kind of inevitable we were going to end up clonking the wall at some point. Shall we go for, what was the fastest three-wheeled run? About 134, I think we saw from, was it the Zuff last time out? Did a, 138, sorry, 138, fastest three-wheeled run. Come on, we can do this. Come on, we will get around these next couple of corners. Oh, come on, go. Yeah, the wheel is still technically being powered, which means it's wanting to drag the car in a funny sort of way. If you could just bounce and bounce yourself clear, get out of the way. I'd much rather the wheel pinged off, I'm honest, than doing what it's doing here. It's actually really slowing down our program. In fact, we're actually about to flip the entire wheel axle inside, which is quite impressive. I don't think we're going to beat the Zuff, although we might do, because the Zuff had to grab a reverse because it stopped steering. This has had all sorts of funky issues around there. We are going to go quicker than the Zuff's three-wheeled run. Pinged the wall on the final run. Still a 20.6. Very quick time. Very quick time indeed. Even with some slightly peculiar braking. Up next, we move on to the Zen Harrier. This from Super Rec. It is an all-wheel drive, flat 6, naturally aspirated flat 6 car. We have got just a smidge over 300 horsepower to play around with in this. It is pretty light, 832 kilos. So that's not much weight. That's actually lighter than the Kestrel. Perhaps a tiny little bit less power, but fairly similar. Fairly similar in terms of the old power. It's purple and carbon fibre. An interesting combination of bits. It's also very I forgot the flat 6s are just the noisiest of engines in the game. Like miles noisiest of engines. Okay, first gear's relatively long in this car. We'll be using first out of all of these corners. First gear goes up to like 40 miles an hour, which is, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to have. I mean, we've been using second on most of the cars. Doesn't matter what gear number it is, as long as there is a gear number that is going to work for these acceleration zones. If it's first, then that's fine, as long as it's got the power to accelerate, and it does. This is another very nice car. We are around these corners without too much in the way of issues. We're going to run a little bit wider line through there. Can we now get it stopped? Yes, that turn in. That turn in is very good on this car. We will wiggle our way onto the back straight. What is the top speed like? It won't have the ultimate power, but it is light. It is 84 miles an hour. No weirdness under braking for this car. There is no sort of semi-lock-ups. It has got ABS. That ABS seems to be working well on this vehicle, up towards 70 miles an hour once more. This is another very good handling car that we have got here, and it's a run across the line. Oh, it's the new fastest time. It's not quite a sub 20, but it is going to go to the top of the table with 2 more runs to go. Although we have often been seeing fastest runs done on the first go. That's fast. It's got lovely throttle response out of all of these corners, which is so important. I don't think it is it's probably not, might not even be the best at any one particular category, but you put it overall and that's where it comes together. I don't think it turns in the very best of everything that I've driven, and it's certainly not the very fastest down the straights. However, it is very good at both of those, and yeah, you put it all together and it makes for one hell of a car. We're going to run, we're going to get that corner there, lovely. The speed that it can carry through these corners is so useful. Again, it's another car where there's not really anything that I would say that I would want to try, but you always want more grip. You always want more grip, especially in this instance. You always want more front end grip. But there is going to be an ultimate limit at the end of the day on this sort of a course, and we are going to plough our way up towards this next big braking zone. Oh, I might have run in a little too deep there on my own. Oh, it's still up to like 83. It's not quite as quick as the downforce mobile, but it's not far away from being one of the it is one of the faster cars down that straight, and it isn't massively powerful. This is what you can do with 300 horsepower if the rest of the car is good. It's the first 19. It's a big crash across the line. It's a 19.4 though. That's going to be a real tough... Like, we were a little bit wide at the end of the long straight, but elsewhere... And if you are wide, you can sometimes get away with sort of cutting back in and getting that exit. That's a hell of a time. It's going to be... I mean, we're going to try again, of course, with the Harrier to go faster. That is going to be a hell of a benchmark for cars to try and go faster than... I think I might have overdriven it a little bit in these first. Problem is, I know how quick that time is from the cars that we've had go so far. And it is now a case of you've got to try and find more time. So you've got to push the car potentially more than you've done previous ones. Really easy to overdrive. Really easy to... make those, you got to brake a little bit later trying to find time, but then you end up out a tad wide. It's always the difficulty with autocross. Always the difficulty when you're trying to find that little smidge of time somewhere. That's, it's what leads to little mistakes. We've got 2 very good runs in the bank with this car. You've got to try something. Oh, that's a little bit close. It's a little bit close to the wall. We got away with it though. There's no wheel spin. There's no movement whatsoever from the car as you put all of that power down, and that is so nice to have the confidence in the car. It's so nice to be able to do that with the vehicle. Oh, up for the hairpin we go again. Yeah, you can position it where you want, and the car just grips. There is almost limitless grip. It's an even faster runner, 19.1. That's so quick. That is just so very, very quick. That is a fearsome benchmark now for cars to try and go faster than. It might not be, in fact, it's the least powerful car we're going to run today, but it uses that 300 horsepower exquisitely. And yeah, that composure is utterly immense. Our next vehicle, this comes from the Witch MD. It is called the Mariposa 119 Hell Climb Special. It is a very purple Porsche with a wing on the front, some absolutely massive, massive tyres around in another all-wheel drive car. This, a turbo i6. Is it the first i6? I think it's the first i6, actually, that we have had run on this, or in this series. It is the most powerful car that we've got here today, up towards the 540 horsepower mark. In a car that weighs 960 odd kilos, that's a lot of power. That's a big power to weight ratio. But is that power going to be usable? That's the big question. The downforce mobile was more powerful than this. Admittedly, it was also a fair bit heavier. But trying to use that power, because to get that power out of a 2-litre engine, you have unbelievably big turbos. The chance, or there might be some turbo lag. We will have to see. Oh god, there's a lot of wheel wobble. That's, I'll be honest, that's a little bit concerning to see. That is a little bit concerning. It also does not turn quite as well as the Harrier. It does not quite get into the corners as well as the previous vehicle. The wheel wobble. The wheel wobble and its fondness for just wandering around the circuit. Oh, stop spinning those wheels. It's not a lot of track. It's got massive rear tyres and a huge amount of wings, but I think it's just when that turbo kicks in, it's just too much for everything. It's just too much and it wants to go for a spin. Now, we may well see an unbelievably high top speed out of this car if the power can be put down in a reasonable manner. We aren't suffering, truly awful turbo lag out of these corners, which is nice. We haven't got, truly terrible turbo lag when we're in first gear, for example. Yeah, there's so much power, I can't really use most of it. Yeah, it's actually no faster. It's no faster than the Harrier down there, despite having over 200 more horsepower, because I simply cannot use that extra 200 more horsepower. That's going to be a very, very nearly big crash. Back of the car is also considerably wider than the front. I do need to remember that. And we're going to run across the line. Hey, spin around. 28.8. Admittedly, I was not quite sure what to expect from that car, and we had to adapt a lot. There's more time in it. However, this may well be a case of just too much power almost to be usable around here. Also, I don't know what's causing the wheel wobble. We saw it last time from the Cossack 1000. That had some tremendous... Well, to be fair, that was the entire thing wobble. This is just seeming like it's the rear axle is wobbling. I don't know whether this is using. We'll have a look underneath it at some point. Not when I'm driving it though, to see what suspension configuration the car is running. It's got a little bit better. I think, yeah, perhaps with the issue with this, with its power delivery, is that I'm essentially having to drive this car as if it does only have 300 horsepower. I can't make the most of that extra 200 because it just dumps it in such an uncontrollable manner. Certainly not helped by the car wanting to shake itself apart. So that's we'll be careful. We'll be careful of that one. And onto the back straight we go. Can I get up to 90 miles an hour with this? Can we do it? No, we still can't. Now that is, of course, measuring wheel speed. The speedometer, I can't, because this is in a time trial, I can't have the airspeed that I would like on here to measure, but it's not 100% accurate, but this is certainly no faster than previously. It's up there, of course, do not get me wrong, it is up there. Oh, very wide through there, and up towards the line we go. It's 27.3, it's a bit better. Still not massively better. I mean, the Hell Climb is a pretty apt name. I feel this is a dangerous car, this one. Oh, one more go. What can we do with this? I mean, I don't know if this is worse than the Cossack for its vibrations. I'm not sure. It's less full car, but kind of more terrifying because they are so violent here around these opening corners. Yeah, it doesn't. The vibration is one thing. It also does not quite get turned in as well as some of the other cars. So you put those two together, and I think we're going to potentially struggle a little bit for time. I'm trying to be brave and make the most of the power in the little bits that we can, but it's, yeah, not easy. It might be one of the more difficult cars I think I've had to drive when you put both of these things together. It's all that power so high up, but I just daren't go up there to use it because we just don't have the control to go with it. Now it's a very wide line through there. It might have actually worked out. I'm not sure whether I want to run. I have been using second out of a couple of these corners. Don't know whether it's certainly going to want first out of here. It's got, you know, they've got the low end power, low end torque to get going. Let's focus on stopping that. There's still the odd little chirping from the brakes. So yeah, I don't know what the difference was between the Harrier and some of these other cars. The Harrier was braking lovely. This, not quite so much, and certainly the Cafe Racer was a little bit sketchy, a little bit scary. Now we are much neater through these final corners. A little wide there, can't really get on the power as soon as I'd like. Fairly similar run time. There we go, look at that wobble from the back of the car as it's spun. It's mad. I think it's too much power and too light. There's not the control. There's not the control to go with the car. Yeah, it is brilliantly quick, but I can't use any of it. I just can't make the most of the power from the i6. Yeah, absolutely. The Hell Climb is the most apt name I think I could have seen for the vehicle. The final vehicle to run around our autocross course today comes from Sectrex. This is the Nova C500R. It looks like a little bit of a sad car. I'm going to be honest, from the front it looks quite sad. However, it is a pretty damn powerful car. Just over 500 horsepower in this one, and it weighs just 878 kilos. That is a very, very big power-to-weight ratio. All-wheel drive, flat six, turbocharged in this car. If it is controllable, it's going to be mighty fast. But as we have seen, controllability in these, you know, massively turboed engines is not the easiest of things. We will just... I completely forgot. I normally will set the ESC off, so my bad on that one. We will get it working properly on this launch. Yeah, controllability is the concern. The good news is first gear looks pretty helpful getting it out of the corners here. So yeah, we've got a gear that we can use. Doesn't matter, as I said before, it doesn't matter if it's first or second, as long as there is a gear that can be used. It will fire the car. It feels bloody quick in between these corners. It's a little bit of juddering, actually. I don't think it's from the wheel. I think it's from the bodywork. It might be the bodywork catching on the wheels, possibly. It didn't look like the wheel flap that we got from the Hell Climb. We're going to be a little bit sideways through all of that. We should be able to get still actually a smidge wide. Get on the power so soon. You get on the power so soon with this car, it just makes it so scarily fast into place. Like your braking zone, I don't actually know where on earth are we going to brake down this back straight. We're a little wide. How fast? Can we crack 100 in this car even? Jeez, it's 99 miles an hour. We're not stopping. Okay, yeah, braking points are going to be very, very different. It could do 100, no problem there, but you'd never make this corner. So we're going to have to be earlier on the brakes. At the bottom of the course, we'll probably have to be nice and early on the brakes down here, because otherwise it's going to end up soaring off into the distance. It's looking like it's going to be, considering this has been a little bit of an explorative run. I can't speak English. It's another fast time, 20.7. It's not that far away from going quicker than the Kestrel. It beats the Downforce Mobile, I believe, just. It only fractionally beats the Downforce Mobile on its first run, and that was with all sorts of wonky braking zones. This is usable power in here. This is a usable car with... Oh! Our brakes ceased to work. Almost. That's very weird. Like, it started slowing down, and then it completely and utterly stopped slowing. What the... I'm gonna go again. I have seen, it's very rare, I have seen weird ABS issues. We've had it with a car on the American Descent where the ABS actually stopped the brakes from working. That was very, very peculiar. I mean, we didn't really learn anything from that. That was very peculiar behaviour from the brakes. It was, 1 minute it was stopping and then all of a sudden it was not. And that didn't do that on the first run, so there is something, yeah. I think we're okay now. You know, you've also got to be, of course, naturally very much aware that the car is going incredibly fast in these braking zones all of a sudden, compared perhaps to some. I say, you know, we're talking 10, 15 miles an hour, perhaps in some places. That doesn't sound like a lot, but around a course like this, that is pretty massive. We are a little bit wide on our own there, although we can still try and get that exit. Oh, got big understeer. Yeah, I've got to be very careful with the level of performance that this car is carrying into these braking zones. It's actually surprisingly capable when you are at earlier braking, much earlier braking. Down there will do the trick. Second gear is actually still pretty good on the old finding power front. We can be a tad later down there. This is still not a I say it's not a particularly amazing run. It's not terrible. There's a little bit more speed in the car. Fire it towards the line. It's a 19.6. Ooh, maybe it... Again, after that line there, it didn't really stop properly. That's very odd. Either way, I mean, it's into the 19s. It's an incredibly quick car if you get it right. I'm now very nervous about those brakes as to what they're going to do. Yeah, after that finish line from... Okay, yeah, again, it's another pretty high speed... Yeah, it's just not stopped. It's just not stopping for corners properly all the time. I mean, that was fairly early on the brakes even now. I have no idea what's causing that one. Don't know whether it's something in the way that the car is built or in the way that it works in Beam or what it might be that is upsetting the Nova. We'll see what we can do on this run here. We were a bit wide in one of the turns, although yeah, not the worst, considering we were fairly wide. It's up here I got into trouble on that previous run. Let's focus on being neat and tidy through there. Now we can run wide on the exit. That makes life easier through here, although again, I've got to remember if I do that line, I am going to be needing to brake slightly earlier for the hairpin afterwards, because you've carried a lot more speed into it. And onto the back straight we go. All 500 horsepowers will be unleashed early on the brakes. I'm really worried about the brakes doing their weird thing down there, because that would, you end up out too wide there, you would be in a lot of trouble. Now, towards the hairpin for the last time we go. I'm actually still a little early under brakes, just to kind of make sure we get it stopped. I don't know if we're going any faster in this. It's across the line. It's a 19.2. It's a damn quick car. That is some seriously impressive controllability out of the car. The brakes are weird, and I don't know what's causing that. There is something very disconcerting about a car where you're never quite sure if it's going to get stopped or not. It's like temperatures seem sensible. It wasn't. It was locking up. It's yeah, an interesting one to have to deal with. But yeah, that's very, very quick. It can actually use, it's the first car that can really use the 500 plus horsepower around here. It can really make the most of its power, good handling through the corners. So yeah, we've had some very, very quick cars run today. On to our leaderboard, and it is quite a lot of change at the top. In fact, 3 of today's cars go into the top 5. The Izen Harrier, that will take the first place away from the Tornboard. It is only narrowly beating the Nova. To be fair, the Nova probably would have gone top without the peculiar braking issues, although that's, yeah, that's how the cars move. It's obviously doing something that's a little bit strange. Both cars are very, very good. The Nova, one of the best cars I've seen so far to deal with high power. The Harrier, one of the best handling cars, and made the most of its 300 horsepower very well. The Cafe Racer also does incredibly well to go into a 5th place, beating the Downforce Mobile. Again, that car's another one, you know, around the 300 horsepower mark. That's a fast time. It's a fast time from the race, and it is all very, very close around these top bits of the table. We do have to go a little bit further down to find the Hell Climb Special. In fact, it will become the slowest of the all-wheel drive cars. A 127.3 from that. A little bit too powerful, a little bit too difficult to drive, and some serious wheel wobble going on from that. Does not help it in terms of lap time. However, it does beat the front-wheel drive K car and the likes of the rear-wheel drive vehicles. An interesting contraption. That is for sure. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.